be intimidated. I will not be silenced, and we will continue on our journey for justice for John O'Keefe and for Karen Reed.
Tick, tick, boom. Noise. Go, baby, we bringing out toys. Boys, chop up the singing, should be on the voice. Bang, bang, we gon' ride out. Gang, gang, we don't die out. Want it like this, ain't no timeouts. Tell me who really gon' find out.
We be disturbing the peace, working, we serving the streets.
Karen Reed has supporters who've shown up in large numbers.
Tick, tick, boom.
Hard body, and not scaring nobody. You make me resort to wildin'. You must be blind by the diamonds. I didn't want it to be this way, but y'all won't need to try this, so it's no way around it. You the loudest one, it's going quiet. We be disturbing the peace, working, we serving the streets. About to go ahead, going beast. Bang, bang, leave you sleep.
This is the first time I think I've ever seen this. An outpouring of support for someone accused of murdering a Boston police officer. Unbelievable situation. Never seen anything like it.
Tick, tick, boom.
You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me?
We be disturbing the peace, working, we serving the streets. About to go ahead, going beast. Bang, bang, leave you sleep. It's go, 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 go time.
Tick, tick, boom.
All right. What's up, everyone? Excuse me, I'm eating lunch at the same time. It's been a pretty hectic day, if you ask me. Just did my press conference outside the courthouse. You know, honestly, I'm not even upset at all. I don't really give a shit. This is just par for the course at this point. This is just how they treat me. It's like, it is what it is. You know, hold on. Do I want this camera or this camera? Which one do I like more? Settings. Camera. Let's go with this one. Oh, what do you guys think? I suppose this one's better, right? It's probably more deserving. All right, guys. So, you know, you're right, Patty. I shouldn't be used to this, but you got to look at the positive here. That's all I thought of. Like, I'm like, okay, you know, I'd like to be in there, but it just, they're only proving my point that, like, they are so, nobody believes that these people are afraid of me. So that's just like a laughable, stupid lie that, like, Brian Albert, I mean, dude, Brian fucking Albert, like big, tough Brian Albert, Tristan Morris, that guy you saw there, that guy's so scared of me, right? He's so scared. It's emasculating. It's humiliating. I could never do what they're doing. I could never be like, oh, that Turtleboy scares me. I mean, with a straight face, forever immortalized. Like, Chris Albert's not the least bit scared of me. None of these people are. But they're rattled by me. That's the problem, is they're rattled by me. And you saw it in court today. Like, it was not a coincidence at all that not once, but twice did Julie Albert, she called him Trooper Bukkake twice. Dude, when that happened, like, everybody in the courtroom just looked at me. Like, you did that. Like, that was all Turtleboy. It's in her head. Like, like the Roccos and Allison and Jason, they were all in there. And they all just kind of looked over me. They're trying not to crack up, and I'm going, Like, I'm trying, dude. She called him 𝗵𝗵𝗻𝗺𝗺 twice. And it's because I was there. No one in the world can convince me that it's not because I was there. Like, I'm like, holy shit, she just said it. Like, the only reason she would call him that is because I called him that, because she watches the show. Like, 𝗵𝗵𝗻𝗺 was watching that, and he's like, fucking, that's going to be my name forever now. Like, even when this ends, I'm always going to be 𝗵𝗵𝗻𝗺. Like, that's it. Like, and when you Google 𝗵𝗵𝗻𝗺, like, you just see women getting come on by all sorts of dicks. Like, all the dicks are coming on them. And that's who he is for the rest of his life. He's the guy named after a woman getting covered in load after load. Like, that's it. That's it. Cum dumpster. Sergeant Cum Dumpster. I like that one. There you go. But the fact that, like, they even filed this motion 2 days ago means that they were like, watch my show. And they're like, oh shit. Because that's when it was announced that I got my press credentials. Like, you guys, I was alive when it happened. I'm like, oh shit, I got my press credentials. It's pretty cool. And they were like, oh yeah, let's file a motion and let's keep him out of the courtroom because he's intimidating witnesses. Obviously, I'm not even like, excuse me. Like, the AP got served. They wanted the media to know before us. But like I said, millions of people are watching this. And they stopped this proceeding for like an hour to talk about me. And me and Tim talked about it. And we're like, I'm like, he's like, do you want to sit at the table with me? I'm like, no. I want to sit in the press. When they kicked me out, because I knew they were going to kick me out, I want them to kick me out from the press box. All right. I want them to kick me out from the press box. I want it to be seen on TV when it happens. I want to be on camera. And that's what they did to me. They made me famous for the world to see. And I thank them for that. Like, because all of this eventually is going to get dropped. Yeah, I got charges now. It sucks now. But at the end of the day, I look big picture here. I'm going to beat all these charges. I'm not going to jail ever again. I got to sue their faces off. And they made me a fucking superstar for free speech. I'm Edward Snowden on steroids. Except I didn't have to flee the country. I got to stay right here. Right here. And, you know, it's absurd that obviously Grant, by the way, everybody in the press corps hates Grant. All of them. Like, when we were walking up today, up the stairs, like I saw Jen McCabe's two sisters walk up today. I'm like, oh shit. Maybe Jen McCabe's testifying today. Turns out they're also sisters with Nicole Albert. You forget about her sometimes. So that's why they were there with the O'Keeffes. I mean, they brought these people with them. And, you know, I'm trying to take a picture of them, and Grant just jumps in the middle. And, you know, his ass crack is showing, and he's trying to block me from taking the pictures. And the other ones are trying to take, other reporters are trying to get it, and they're furious. And they're just like, did Grant do this? And they're filing complaints, and no one's getting back to them about it. It's just wild, man, that this is allowed, that he's allowed to be there. He harasses Karen on the steps. He does the same shit I do, except my shit's like fact-based, you know? Like, it's just wild that guy does that. Like, Tim's texting me right now. Like, Supreme Court shit. That's what we got here. Like, all right, this is what my lawyer just texted me, Tim Bradle. He said, if we get the SJC against us, like we're bringing this right to the SJC. We are appealing this immediately. We're not even bringing this to Kearney. We know how Kearney's going to rule. She's a tyrant. She did this buffer zone. The buffer zone is unconstitutional. We've just seen it time and time again. My arrest, Canton 9, the dispatcher, the obviously, I'm brain farting. The buffer zone. Like, they're just like, the First Amendment's aflame here. So we're just going right to the SJC. And if we don't get what we want from them, then he says, this might be a vehicle to the United States Supreme Court. Because, and we will. we will go to the Supreme Court, and they will take this case up. I have no doubt about it. Like, this is a series. Like, I'm a credentialed journalist. I was just kicked out of a murder trial. Why? I haven't been convicted of any witness intimidation. What have I been convicted of? I've been charged, not convicted, and the charges are off of lies. You haven't even seen the grand jury lies that these people told. It's lied to the grand jury. Insane. He said he spoke to a court reporter at the SJC, and they're going to have a written transcript banged out for me for tomorrow. So about what just transpired in there. So we're going right to the Supreme Court. And if the SJC doesn't give us what we want, then we go to the United States Supreme Court, and that's what we're going to do. Because the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts has been wrong before about stuff. About 10 years ago, outside of like Planned Parenthoods, and again, this isn't an abortion issue, this is a speech issue. Outside of Planned Parenthoods, there would be these like kind of like circular things outside of them, and protesters would have to stay outside of that little ring there. They used to have them. It would be like in the middle of the street. It would go on the sidewalks and stuff like that. A group of protesters appealed. They said this is unconstitutional. These stupid things. You can't have that. We have a right to protest outside of these, right? And again, this is no opinion about abortion. Like, forget about that. Forget about what they're protesting. They're protesting, and the SJC said, no, those are constitutional. Well, they brought it to the United States Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, actually, it's not. 9-0, unanimous, including Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the most pro-choice justices ever, said, yes, that's a speech violation. All right, we're back. And we will do that too if necessary. And all right, how bad is this woman? She sounds so raspy, does she not?
All right, Ms. Little, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, before we start, Exhibit S, which was marked for identification, I believe the proper foundation is laid. I'd ask.
So let's not do that from there. Let me see it, please.
Sure.
Do we have S, S as in Sam, or X?
Identification.
S as in Sam?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, it wasn't today?
Why don't you come to sidebar, folks?
It's on this.
10 seconds into this, we already got a fucking sidebar. By the way, if anyone wants to donate, you click at the link at the top for Turtle Chat, and you can donate whatever amount of money you want. All right, or you can cash at me at $𝗺 and we can do it that way. Got a couple here. Third Shift gave $10 and he says on the way. And shout out to all the people who stood up for me last night. Like, you guys are amazing. I love you guys. Love you guys. Next up, we got Mary since $25 says, you're an amazing journalist and a human being. Oh, thank you. No beating around the bush. Yell it like it is. Thank you very much, Mary. I love you. Any more here? Okay, so the Turtle Chat's on the top. I know I got a couple Cash Apps. As soon as I got kicked out of court, the Cash Apps rolled in. I didn't even ask for them. People just, again, they do that. That's what makes Turtle Riders like amazing. Is like, you guys just, there's an army behind me, you know, like you guys aren't going to accept that. Like, you take it personally, like it's an attack on you too, because it is. An attack on me is an attack on all of us, like, because it's an attack on people. Well, I'll read these at the next break. Again, Cash App, $𝗺 or
The parties have stipulated that Exhibit X is a graphic representation of 34 Fairview.
And not a photo.
Not a photograph.
Okay, sure. Now you can approach the witness if you. Oh, you just want to put it into evidence now?
Your Honor.
Okay. So that will be our next exhibit. Madam Court Reporter? Thank you.
You actually need it.
May I approach? Yes. Ms. Albert, you testified that Jennifer McCabe woke you up around 6:45 a.m., correct?
I believe I said between 6 and 6:30, but could have been
And that
6.
was what woke you up, correct?
Yes.
She obviously had access to the house.
Yes.
The door wasn't locked.
Nope.
That's sort of a typical practice for you.
Yeah, it was just sometimes with the kids, the last one in supposed to lock it. They didn't, you know, it just wasn't always locked.
And inside your house, you've had plenty of blankets and other items that could have been comfort to a man laying in the snow, correct?
Yes.
So as to that form, I'm going to sustain the objection. You can ask the question a different way, Ms. Little.
Ms. Albert, you had blankets inside of your house that could have helped someone who's freezing outside.
Objection.
So I'm going to sustain the objection. You can ask a shorter form of that question.
What?
Ms. Albert, you had blankets in the house, correct?
Yes.
You were also lying next to a first responder
Objection.
that morning, correct?
You can answer that.
Yes.
And neither you nor your husband came outside to help John, correct?
We did not go outside because we had no idea what was going on outside. We were sound asleep until my sister came into my bedroom.
Liar.
No further questions.
Okay.
Just like
Stellali?
the jury believes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
With regard to phone calls from your sister Jennifer McCabe that morning, shortly after 6 a.m., did those phone calls wake you up?
No.
Did you answer those phone calls?
No.
Did you speak to Jennifer McCabe on the phone prior to her, or at any point on that morning prior to her coming into your room?
I did not.
And you were shown something that's a 𝗬𝗿𝗄𝗆 extraction report, correct?
Yes.
And not just that specific one, but have you ever seen any 𝗬𝗿𝗄𝗆 extraction report before in your life?
No.
Fair to say you don't know how to interpret the data that's on there?
No.
Fair to say that you don't know whether or not an answered call or something that's listed as answered was something that was actually answered or went to voice.
Correct.
It says unanswered.
Now,
It goes to voice dipshit.
with regard to your dog, Chloe,
Mm-hmm.
following that incident in May of 2022, what, if anything, did you and your husband do with regard to the person that had been bitten?
Well, we had gone over to their house to apologize for what had happened and, you know, offered to pay any bills, you know, that they may have had for any injury to the dog or anything. And then after that, we just decided that we thought the best thing to do would be to try to rehome it because I just didn't want something like that to happen again.
You didn't rehome it. You know,
Can you explain
Chrissy
to the
gnomed
jury
that
sort of
dog,
what are the
didn't you?
steps that
Chrissy
you
gnomed
took,
it.
in the process of rehoming your?
Well, initially I had called a bunch of shelters and they were pretty much telling me that it would be hard to rehome her. She was dog aggressive and they would probably have to put her down. I didn't want to do that. The family, you know, we love the dog. And so I did not want to do that. So I reached out to the woman in Texas who we got the dog from to see if she could help. And she said, you know, she couldn't take it back, but she would try to help me out. So she ended up finding a woman who lived in Vermont. I think she lived alone. She had big property. It seemed like a good fit. She wanted to take Chloe and we made arrangements and I went and met this woman halfway and I gave her Chloe.
And what, if any, conversations or contact have you had with that woman in Vermont since rehoming your dog?
For a few months after I,
Objection, Your Honor.
So not the substance of it, but
Have you had contact with the woman in Vermont?
yes, I did for a few months, back and forth.
Now, with reference to Chloe, when your sister Jennifer McCabe comes into your bedroom hysterical that morning of January 29th, was Chloe in the room at the time?
Yes.
You were asked some questions about the evening or the early morning when people had come from the waterfall back to your home, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, you were cleaning and Mr. Higgins and your husband were out of your line of sight, is that correct?
Yes.
How long a period of time are we talking?
I don't, it wasn't very long, a couple minutes. Wasn't watching where everybody was and what everybody was doing.
Fair to say, relatively short period of time.
Yes. Yeah.
have nothing further.
Okay.
Briefly, Your Honor.
Okay.
Renowned is mine.
So you need to take this down, sir. Thank you. There was something that was just up there. Go ahead.
Ms. Albert,
I don't know how to-
I never received any voicemails from Jennifer McCabe on January 29th, did you?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm going to invite you.
You also
can do it.
have never produced, pursuant to our request, any documentation about the whereabouts of Chloe.
The objection sustained. I'm going to strike that question.
What?
Disregard the question. Well,
Chloe.
questions aren't evidence, so we can leave it on the record, but the objection sustained.
Fucking liars.
You've never turned over any information about the location of Chloe since the pendency of this case, have you?
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
I'm just going to sustain the objection.
Wow. They do not want them to say where Chloe is. The jury's hearing that.
Have you ever provided information about the whereabouts of Chloe to the cont office?
Yes, I believe I have.
You have.
I believe so.
When did you do that?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
Oh, she's not sticking to the script. She realized she fucked up. You are Liza Little's wreck. You have. Oh, she realizes she just fucked up. I'm telling you, these people can't keep their story straight. They're liars. They keep getting bailed out by Adam Lally and the judge. Oh my God, they're liars. And this is why they don't want me in the courtroom. She looks over at me. She's like, that fucking guy's here. There go that man again. She's like, this guy's going to pay attention to everything I'm saying, isn't he? He's going to, like, if you think they're in her head right now, if I got in that courtroom, it would not be physically scared of me. But their lies would catch up to them. They're like, this guy's going to know when I'm lying. That's what they're thinking in their head. This guy's going to know when I'm lying. Like, and they're going to think back to every show they watched of mine. And they're going to be like, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 All of these people cannot stop watching me. In fact, Tristan Morris came up to me and he's just like, you wrote about me. I'm like, you read it? Oh, cool. Of course you did. Of course you did. Every single one of these people reads everything I write. They think about me all the time. I can't help it. That's not my fault. I mean, look at this woman. There's a reason she's been hiding. She's a bad liar. She's lying. And when's Brian Albert getting up there, you know? Is it going to cost me money? That depends. You know, I guess I could make it depends on the long term. I think the idea of being in that courtroom and being seen on camera as a reporter in the front row, I think that's kind of invaluable. I don't know if you could put a price on that, because this trial is going to be immortalized, and there I am front and center. Although the time I got kicked out of court, well, now, I mean, no other reporter was put on the spotlight like I was, you know? So it's I think, yeah, I might make more money in donations. I don't know how this would work out, but long term, I think it would be more beneficial to me professionally to be in there. That's what I think. And I deserve to be in there. But what would be even better is if we get the SJC to overturn this decision and they force me back into there. That would be the best case scenario, because you gave me the attention I wanted, and then we got a higher court to overrule you. That would be ideal, I think. Hold on, I got to message Deb real quick. I just sent you on text, Deb. Okay, because you know how to do it. I don't. Okay. So there's that. All right, cool. There's no, she was really nice. She was not flipping me off.
No
She was really nice.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Ms. Albert, you are all set.
Good.
Thank you.
Oh, who's next, Brian? Who's it gonna be?
Your next witness, Mr. Levin?
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth will call, excuse me, Mr. Brian Albert to the stand.
Go, fuck, let's go. Fucking time. Here we go. Let's do it. This guy's so scared of me. Stop it, Brian. It is in my pants, and you don't get it. No bueno for you. Where is he? There he is. Look at him. Like this guy, come on. The jury sees this guy. Like this guy, come on.
But you solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. I do.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Your Honor, and good afternoon to the jury.
Oh
Good
my
afternoon.
God.
So could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Sure, it's Brian, last name Albert, ALBERT.
And where do you live, sir?
I live in Norwood, Massachusetts.
How long have you lived in Norwood?
Approximately a year.
And who, if anyone, you live in Norwood with?
My wife, Nicole, and my son, Brian, and my son, Brendan.
Ask you just a little bit about your family as far as, let me start with yourself and your wife, Nicole. How long have the two of you been married?
Approximately 29 years.
And were you together for a period of time prior to getting married?
Yes, we've known each other since we were 13, 14 years old.
And do you have any siblings, sir?
I do.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have 5 brothers and 1 sister.
And if you could, just as far as, are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest of 7, yes.
And as far as your brothers and sisters are concerned, what are their names? And if you could rank them sort of by age.
Sure. The next sibling after me is my sister Kathleen. Then I have a brother Chris,
Kevin.
Brother Kevin,
Brendan.
brother Keith,
Brandon.
a brother Brendan, and a brother Timmy.
Got him. Timmy.
And you and your wife, Nicole, do you have children of your own?
Yes,
And how many children do you
5.
have? And how old are they?
So my oldest daughter is 29. My son Brian is 25. My son Brendan turns 23 today. And I have twins, or we have twins that are 20 years old. Caitlin's 28. I'm sorry, I said 29.
Now, prior to living at your address in Norwood, where did you live before that?
Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
Approximately in the house on Fairview Road, approximately 11 years.
And in total, about how long have you been a resident in Canton before moving to Norwood?
Approximately 45 years.
And that address, that's 34 Fairview Road, is that right?
Yes.
And what, if any, relationship did that home or that residence have to your family before you and your wife and the kids moved?
My parents had lived at that residence prior to us.
So you had spent some of your childhood in that house as well?
Yes.
And do you work, sir?
I retired now. Retired.
What did you retire from?
Boston Police Department.
And how long were you a member of the Boston Police Department?
Approximately 30 years.
And within the Boston Police Department, were you assigned to any sort of specific unit or special duties?
My last assignment, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yes. My last assignment was the Boston Police Fugitive Unit.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022. Do you recall that date?
Yes.
And do you recall what day of the week that was?
The 28th, I believe, was a Friday.
And when you first sort of got up on the 28th, where were you with that?
On the 28th, I was in New York City.
And why had you gone to New York City?
So I went to New York for a funeral of a New York City police officer who was killed in the line of duty.
And about what time or what day did you go down to New York for that?
We went down the day before, so I believe that was Thursday.
Do you recall how it was that you got down there?
Yes, I flew to New York.
Flew?
And when you say we, who, if anyone, went with you on that trip to New York?
Higgins.
I flew with a friend and a coworker named Eddie Hernandez.
Oh, the one that you punched in the...
So another Boston police officer?
Yes.
And down in New York at that funeral, were there other members of law enforcement that you knew or were familiar with working?
Yes, there were thousands of police officers that went to the funeral.
So he went to a stranger's funeral.
And included within those people, you mentioned you have a brother Kevin, is that correct?
Yes.
Is he a police officer as well?
He is.
And where is he?
He's a detective in Canton, Massachusetts.
And was he down at this funeral as well?
He was.
And do you know a gentleman by the name of Brian Higgins?
Yes.
And was Brian Higgins at this funeral service as well?
Yes, he was.
And how is it that you know Brian Higgins?
So I know Brian Higgins initially from work, professional relationship. I've known him known of him for 10 or 15 years. And then the past few years, more recently, we worked together on a closer basis, and I became better friends with him.
And fair to say that when you became better friends with him, you also sort of socialized with him outside of work?
Yes.
Now, as far as your return trip from New York, what, if anything, happened?
On the return trip from New York, we drove back.
Why did you drive versus fly back when you flew?
So that weekend there was anticipated snowstorm, and I believe the flight that we were taking with JetBlue may have even been canceled. And Brian Higgins was leaving in a vehicle that morning. So we ended up driving, or after the funeral, we ended up driving with him.
And so it's yourself, Mr. Higgins, and then if anyone else went with you on the drive back to Massachusetts?
Eddie Hernandez and my brother Kevin.
And when you arrived back in Massachusetts, where was it sort of specifically that you went first?
I initially went to the Charlestown to pick up my vehicle.
Where was your vehicle parked in Charlestown?
It was at a police station, Charlestown Station. It's a satellite station located in Charlestown.
And that was in reference to proximity to the airport, is that correct?
Yes.
So that would have been Logan that you flew out of and intended to fly back into?
Logan Airport, yes.
And after you were dropped off with your vehicle, what kind of vehicle was that?
That was a Ford Edge.
Was that a personal vehicle or work vehicle?
Work vehicle.
And so you get dropped back off at your work vehicle. Where did you go?
So from Charlestown, I drove back towards the Canton area, and I met Brian Higgins at a restaurant bar called the Hillside.
Is that in Canton as well?
I believe so. It's on the Canton-Milton line. I believe it sits in Canton.
And what was the purpose of you and Mr. Higgins going?
After the drive home, he asked if I wanted to get some food and stop off, and I said yes.
And if you know about what time was it that you got to the Hillside with Mr. Higgins?
I want to say around 9:30, perhaps. Not entirely sure.
When you arrived there, what did you do?
So we went into the establishment and had a drink and hung out for a while.
And did you order any food there?
I did not. I believe Brian did, though.
And while you were at the Hillside with Mr. Higgins, what, if any, communication did you receive from your wife, Nicole?
So around that time, I talked to my wife, I think more than once, and she had let me know that her and a few people were at another location in Canton, and she had asked if I wanted to come by and see them.
What was that other location?
That other location was the Waterfall.
Is that an establishment you were familiar with?
Yes.
You've been there before several times?
I had been there before, yes.
And so you drove then from the Hillside to the Waterfall?
Yes.
About how long a drive is that?
Maybe 7 minutes, between less than 10 minutes.
And so as you're going on that drive, the snow that was anticipated coming in, had that anything related to that started yet?
No, I at that time, I don't recall any snow.
And in relation to the Waterfall, where did you park?
In the parking lot for the Waterfall, which is adjacent to the door to go inside. So it's to the left if you're looking at the building from Washington Street.
And when you come into, now, when you left the Hillside, Mr. Higgins stayed there?
Yes, he stayed.
And when you came into the Waterfall, who, if anyone, was there?
So when I walked in and I saw my wife, my oldest daughter, Caitlin, I saw my brother, Chris, his wife, Julie, my brother-in-law, Matt, and my sister-in-law, Jen.
And your brother-in-law, Matt, and your sister-in-law, Jen, their last name is McCabe, is that right?
Yes.
And if you could just explain to the jury sort of how you were related as far as what year it is that you know.
So my brother Chris's wife is Julie, and then Nicole's sister is Jen, and then Jen's husband is Matt McCabe.
Get to it.
And is it fair to say that you've probably known Jennifer McCabe about as long as you've known your wife, Nicole?
Yes, since she was a little kid, maybe 6, 7 years old.
And you see these people, and where are they sort of situated in the waterfall?
So there was a high top table kind of in the front area as you walk in, kind of in the middle of the room. And everybody was just kind of around the high top table.
And what, if anything, was there as far as live entertainment at the waterfall that night?
There was a band playing there.
And with reference to the people that you've just spoken, as far as your wife and your daughter specifically, were they at the high top table closer to the band or further away?
So they were on the side of the table that's, I guess, closer to the door as you come in. And then there were other people on the opposite side of the table that was closer to the bar area.
And after you came into the waterfall, went up to the group of your family, what did you order anything? What did you do there?
Yeah, I kind of just said hi to everybody.
Wake me up.
I don't recall exactly, but I'm sure I ordered a drink.
What did I do? Oh, yeah, sorry.
Your arrival, who, if anyone else, showed up and eventually sort of joined your group?
There was another couple at the table. I don't know if they were there initially when I walked in, but there was another couple at the table whom I believed were there before I got there, but I just don't know what their names were.
Do you know how they were related to your group?
I don't. I think they're friends with Jen and Matt, but I'm not 100% sure.
And where were they situated in reference to where your wife and your daughter were?
So they were, I believe, to the right of this pretty large high top table.
So towards the other end of the table?
Yes.
And if you recall, what were you drinking then?
I don't recall. I usually drink beer, Mich Ultra, but I can't remember that night what I was drinking.
Now, following your arrival there and you meet up with your family, were there other friends or family that eventually showed up at this establishment and joined your group?
Yes.
And who were they, sir?
So after I was there, maybe about a half hour, Brian Higgins arrived at the location.
And if you recall, what, if any, sort of communication did you have with Mr. Higgins, or how did Mr. Higgins know to come to the waterfall specifically?
Because while we were at the hillside, I had mentioned that I was going to be leaving to go to the waterfall to see my family who was already there. And I invited him to come by if he wanted to.
And at any point in time, sort of throughout the course of the day, yourself and Mr. Higgins, you had each other's sort of information and cell numbers, things like that?
Yes.
And at any point in time throughout the course of the day or the evening, did you have occasion to text or phone call or anything with Mr. Higgins?
Yes.
Now, after Mr. Higgins arrives, who, if anyone else, came into Waterfall and joined you?
Probably after about a half hour later from Brian Higgins arriving, John O'Keefe came into the waterfall with the defendant.
And that would have been probably about 11 o'clock, is that correct?
Yes.
And John O'Keefe, if you could tell the jury, well, first, did you know John O'Keefe?
So I knew John O'Keefe, but not well. I had only met him 2 times prior to that night. But I knew him to be a Boston cop, and I knew of him, and I knew some things about him.
And as far as the Boston Police Department, it's a fairly large department. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And about how many members or how many people on Boston?
Depending on the year, I mean, sometimes it's upwards of 2,000.
And through the course of your work over the decades that you worked with the Boston Police, did you ever work with or have any professional sort of interaction with John O'Keefe?
No, I don't remember working with him directly within the Boston Police Department.
Were you aware of sort of what his role was or what he did within the Boston Police?
Yes, I knew where he worked.
And where did he work?
I believe he worked at the 𝗬𝗎 unit, which is the sex offender registry unit.
And you mentioned just briefly before that you had heard of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
And what is it that you had heard of?
Well, I knew him to be a friend of my sister-in-law, Jen, and her husband, Matt. I knew him to be a friend of my brother, Chris, and my sister-in-law, Julie. I knew him to be a friend of my brother, Kevin's. I've heard his name mentioned multiple times, and I knew that he had a horrible couple tragedies in his family, and I knew that he stepped up and decided to take care of his niece and his nephew when they tragically lost their parents. And
how would you sort of describe your relationship with John O'Keefe at this time, January 28, 2022?
Although I didn't know him well, I considered him to be a friend, and our relationship was very, very good, cordial, and I considered him to be somebody that I could hang out with and have a good time with.
Now, you mentioned that Mr. O'Keefe walked in around 11 o'clock to the waterfall with the defendant, just for clarity purposes. You're referring to Karen Reed, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you see Ms. Reed in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article of clothing?
Sure. She's a female at the table in front of me with a black top on, long sleeve.
Just ask the record reflect identification.
Yes.
Now, with regard to Ms. Reed, had you met Ms. Reed prior to that date of January 28th?
I believe I had met her one time a week prior.
And do you recall any specifics about that meeting or how it is that you came to meet her about a week prior?
I do.
And if you could explain to the jury what those circumstances were.
Sure. I met her at the hillside. I believe she was there with John a week prior.
And as far as your interaction with her on that particular evening, anything significant stand out to you?
No.
Now, when they came in, and by day, I'm sorry, I mean Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed came into the waterfall, where did they go in relation to where you were sort of situated at the hot tub?
So I don't remember them actually walking in the front door. I remember them being in my general area at some point. And they went towards the other side of the table where my sister-in-law, Jen, and my brother-in-law, Matt, were standing.
And at some point, did either or both of them make their way down towards your side of the table, excuse me, and what, if any, interaction did you have?
Yes, I remember having an interaction, or more than one interaction, with John. Came over to say hello, and we had some conversation, not for too long, but yes.
Do you remember anything specific about that conversation or anything stand out to you?
No, I think we were talking mostly about work. I think he let me know that the sergeant, I guess, that worked in his unit was leaving, or left, or transferred. And, he was jokingly saying that I should try to get a job over it where he works.
And as far as the defendant, Ms. Reed, what, if any, conversation or interaction did you have?
I don't remember having any interaction with her whatsoever.
Now, as far as when Mr. O'Keefe came over, what, if anything, did you observe as far as what he was wearing, clothing, anything like that?
I don't really remember what he was wearing for clothing. I believe he had a baseball hat on. Other than that, I can't remember his clothing.
And specifically, do you recall anything as far as like a winter jacket or a big coat or anything like that?
I can't say. I wasn't really paying attention to what he was wearing. I don't know.
And as far as just his general features, as far as what you could observe, what, if any, sort of injuries or anything did you observe on his person at that time?
I observed no injuries at that time.
And course of the evening, you had a couple of interactions with Mr. O'Keefe, is that correct?
Yeah, I believe we talked a few times, kind of hung out, stood next to each other for a while, like you normally would do at a bar restaurant.
And is the band playing while this is going on, is that correct?
Yes, the band was there. You know, I believe they took a break here and there, but they were there for the night.
Now, Mr. Albert, how would you describe sort of the general mood or demeanor of the group while you were at the waterfall night?
In one word, it would be fun. Everybody was in a great mood. People were getting along. It was friends and family, and it was just seemed like a great night.
And do you recall about what time things started to wind down or things started to sort of end for the evening?
I believe the band stopped playing probably, you know, close to 12, and things started winding down, you know, a little before 12.
And if you know, from the group that you just described at the high top table that you were a part of, what was sort of the order in which people left the establishment, starting with the first?
So I believe the first to leave was myself, my wife, Nicole, my daughter, Caitlin, and Brian Higgins left at that time as well.
And had anybody left from your group prior to when, I'm sorry. So the bar starts to wind down around 12, correct?
Yes.
Prior to the bar winding down, had anybody from your group left before that?
I didn't remember or notice that. I'm not sure.
And so the first to sort of leave from your group when the bar is winding down is yourself, Mr. Higgins, your wife, and your daughter?
Yes.
And when you exit the establishment, where do you go?
Into the parking lot to my vehicle.
Let me take it back just for a moment back into the waterfall. During the course of the evening, what, if any, conversation was had by you or amongst the group that you observed as far as where to go next, or what were you doing following the waterfall?
Okay, so there was some conversation relative to people going to my brother's sub shop, which is across the street, and he was maybe going to make some pizzas for people if they were hungry. So that was discussed.
And did that end up happening?
No, some people didn't want to go over there, and for whatever reason, it just didn't happen.
And beyond that, was there anything else that was discussed as far as where to go after the waterfall?
Yes.
And what was that?
So it ended up being my son Brian's 23rd birthday. So at 12 o'clock, he would be 23. So there was some discussion about if anybody wanted to go by the house to kind of say happy birthday to him. And I know my wife, Nicole, mentioned it to Jen and Matt, and it was said, I believe, in the group
Birthdays
where we were standing.
Sacred in this family, sacred.
And so was that sort of an open invitation that was extended to pretty much anybody that was around the high top table?
Yeah, sure. Anybody that was there was welcome to come by if they wanted to.
And as far as you knew, as far as awareness of who was coming over to your house at 34th Fairview, who from the group were you aware of coming over?
I don't really remember the responses. I don't think I knew for sure if anybody was going to come, except Brian Higgins said he would come by.
And he had left around the same time as you?
Yes.
And had Brian Higgins been to your house before?
I believe he was at my house for a high school graduation party.
And high school graduation probably in the spring, is that correct?
It would have been the summer prior to that time. So my twins were graduating high school, and we had something at the house, and it was spring, summer of the year prior.
And around that time, so that would have been 2021, is that correct?
Yes.
So around that time, there was still sort of vestiges or whatever of the COVID pandemic, is that correct?
Yes, actually, that was just getting over, I think.
And so where was this graduation party at your house? Was that inside your house or outside your house or something?
It was actually out back. It was more of a cookout type thing.
And so as far as you can recall, prior to January 28, 2022, had Mr. Higgins been physically sort of inside your house for anything beyond using the bathroom?
Besides that graduation party, I don't believe he had ever been at my house. I'm sure he walked into the house, to use the bathroom or something that day, but I didn't really notice, whether he went in there or not.
And, Your Honor, with the court's permission, there's just a couple of very short clips that I'd like to publish with this witness in reference to what's been marked as Exhibit 53, video from the waterfall. And Ms. Gilman, with reference to channel 3, if I could have the fourth video now. And Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to fast forward to 18 minutes and 50 seconds. Now, Mr. Albert, directing your attention up to the screen to your right here. Do you recognize what's up on the screen?
Yes.
What do you recognize
that? The waterfall.
And this is, at least according to the timestamp, about 11:57 p.m. on the 28th. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what's up there is that, to the best of your recollection, a fair and accurate portrayal of what the inside of the waterfall looked like, absent sort of the quality of the video.
Yes.
And sir, I believe there should be a laser pointer on the desk before you. If you just press that button and point at the screen. What I'm going to ask you to do is, if you could draw the jury's attention to who, if anyone, within this sort of still frame of the video that you recognize, if any.
With the time band across the top there, I can't really. I can see some people around the table that we were standing, which would be this table area here. Tough for me to say from here who everybody is. I believe that's Brian Higgins there, but I'm not 100%.
Ms. Gilman, if you could play this, and what I'm going to ask you to ultimately play is up to the 19 minute and 58 seconds. Ms. Gilman, if you could pause it there.
Dressing like Mr. Rogers ain't
Now,
anyone.
Mr. Albert, from what you observe up there, as far as the door that you came in and came out of on that evening, do you see generally where that door is?
Yes.
And if you could direct the jury's attention.
Alan Jackson's definitely taking this one.
Doors this way.
And from just prior to when this video went out, stopped at the 11:57 and 50-second mark, you see a group sort of making their way towards that front door. Is that correct?
Yes.
And from this vantage point, are you able to recognize any of the people in that group that made their way towards it?
Yes, I believe I saw my wife, my daughter here maybe, and then I think I'm over here. But again, it's a little grainy, and I can't really see great from here. And I saw Brian Higgins, but I don't know if he's in here somewhere.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. If you could just press play again for about 30 some odd seconds. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. You could take that down, and then Ms. Gilman, if I could ask for one other video from channel 1, the second one down. If I could ask you to fast forward that to about 5 minutes and 10 seconds. And ultimately, I'm going to ask you to play it from 5 minutes and 10 seconds to 5 minutes and 50 seconds. If you could press play now. Thank you, Mr. Now, generally speaking, what was just played up on the screen, Mr. Albert, do you recognize what that is?
Yeah, it looks like the exit of the waterfall, and we're kind of walking out.
The same group that was just walking through the front door, now walking out the front door and into the parking lot?
Yes, and I believe there was somebody else there. I don't know if it was somebody from the band or looks like a different person out front there.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cumming, you can take that. Now, Mr. Albert, when you get to the parking lot, you get in the vehicle and you drive to your house, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and specifically, you're the one driving, is that correct?
Yes.
And who is in your car with you on the drive back?
My wife Nicole and my daughter Caitlin.
And about how far a drive is it from the waterfall to your house?
I would say five minutes.
And the weather, as far as when you walk out, get in the car, and then start driving, what, if anything, had changed about the weather from the time you came into the waterfall to the time you came out?
Yeah, so it had started snowing a little bit more heavily. You can kind of see that on that second video. So the ground was beginning to be, coated, it looked like.
So coating on the ground, but could you, as you were driving, could you still sort of see the blacktop of the roadway?
I believe so, yes.
Now, you get to your house, and what, if anything, happens sort of as you're coming into your driveway?
It looks like that. It had looked like Brian had gotten there first, Brian Higgins, and he was backing out, so I could pull my car in.
And as far as the vehicle that Mr. Higgins was driving on that evening from the waterfall, was that the same vehicle that he had driven with you back from New York?
No.
And what kind of vehicle was the one that he was driving?
They're delaying this so that
What
Alan
kind of
Jackson
vehicle was the
can't
one he was
cross-examine.
driving?
So the one back from New York, he was driving a full-size pickup truck. I'm not sure what make or model, but it had a cab on the back, and I believe it's gray. And then that night later in the night at the waterfall, he had a Jeep Wrangler vehicle that I believe is white, but I'm not 100%.
So he had arrived in your house before you, is that correct?
Yes.
And you said it looked like he had done something to the driveway?
He may have skimmed, he had a plow on his truck, and I think he may have plowed the driveway and then pulled out, and then we pulled in.
And as far as vehicles at your house, how many, around this time in January 22, between yourself, your wife, kids, how many vehicles did you have?
I believe 3.
And what type of vehicles, and who was sort of the primary driver with regard to those?
So I had we had a Ford Explorer, a Cadillac SUV. It's a smaller SUV that my wife Nicole drives, and the Ford Edge that I already spoke of, and I believe we had one more vehicle that one of my kids drove at that time. And I'm just trying to remember. It might have been an Escape, maybe a Ford Escape. Someone could have had that at college. Someone could have had that at school. So I don't remember if it was there that night or not.
He's been practicing these lies for a long time.
All the vehicles were essentially like SUV type vehicles.
Yes, we didn't own any sedans or any cars.
Now, as far as when you pull into the driveway, the house at 34 Fairview had the 2-car garage.
Yes.
And is the garage something that you or other members of your family would utilize as far as parking the vehicles?
No. So unfortunately, we didn't use the garage a lot because we kind of used it for storage, and we had a lot of stuff out there. So we very seldom used it.
And if you recall, as you're pulling into the driveway, did you pull into the left side, the right side, or?
I believe I pulled in on the left side of the driveway.
And you mentioned that Mr. Higgins had sort of scooped with the plow like in the driveway and then parked on the street. Do you recall where in relation to your house or your driveway he parked?
So no, I don't remember where Brian Higgins parked. I remember him pulling out so I could pull in, and then I didn't really see where he parked.
And you then go into your house, is that correct?
Yes.
And are all of you, and by all of you, I mean yourself, your wife, your daughter, and Mr. Higgins all sort of coming in around the same time?
Basically, yes.
When you come into your house, do you recall how many doors in the front of the house are there?
So we have 2 front doors.
And one would be sort of by some steps, is that correct?
There's actually steps on both doors, but one of them is, I guess, considered the front door with a large set of steps.
And they would be sort of brick steps, is that right?
Yes.
And that leads into a foyer area of the house?
Yes.
And the other door, where does that lead?
So the other door opens up right into the, we call it the family room, but right into the family room den area.
And do you recall specifically which door you utilized on that evening to go into the house?
I believe I went in the door on the right, which goes into the den. Not really sure what other doors people used.
And when you came into the house, who, if anyone, was present beyond the people that you would come in with?
So my son Brian was home. He had 2 friends, I believe, Julie and Sarah.
And these were people that you had known as friends of your son from prior vacation?
I didn't know Sarah. I had met Julie once or twice.
And as you were walking in, who, if anyone else, beyond your son and his 2 friends?
And my nephew, Colin.
That'd be Colin Albert, is that correct?
Yes, Chris and Julie's son, Colin.
About how old was Colin around that?
I believe he was just about 18.
Here comes the Colin line.
17, 18. He's in high school.
So you're still in high school at the time?
Yes.
And when you walk in, where was Colin in relation to your son and the 2 girls that he was with?
He was just kind of standing in the kitchen with Brian and the 2 girls. Brian and the 2 girls were at the kitchen table, and Colin was just kind of standing there.
And from the time that you arrived home, how long was Colin at?
He's just standing there.
No more than 5 minutes.
And where did he go?
He left. He just said he was getting picked up.
Oh.
He said he was getting picked up, and a few minutes later he left your house.
Yes, I went and used the bathroom. I came out and he was gone.
Oh.
Now,
he just left.
At some point subsequent to that, who, if anyone else, arrived or showed up at your house?
After Colin left the house?
Yes.
Nobody else arrived at the house.
Your sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, at some point, did they come by?
Yes, I thought you were referring to after they showed up.
So when, my question is, do you know whether or not when Jennifer McCabe and Matthew McCabe arrived at your house, was Colin still there?
I don't know if he was still there or not. I believe he left before they came, but I'm not 100%.
So you come home and you go to use the restroom, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you go to use the restroom, Colin's there, correct?
Yes.
And the McCabe's are not?
They are not.
When you come back from the restroom, Colin's not there?
Yes, Colin was gone.
And the McCabe's are there?
No, I don't believe they had arrived yet.
Okay. So they arrived sometime after Colin had left?
Yes.
And over the course of that evening of the 28th into the early morning of the 29th, did anybody else come into your house, or did anybody else come into your house at any point?
No.
Now, in addition to yourself, your wife, and your son, did you have any pets at that time?
Yeah, yes, we did.
And what kind of pets did you have?
We had a dog.
And what kind of dog was that?
So it was a German Shepherd mix.
And what was the name of the dog?
Chloe.
And how long had you and your family had the dog?
We had Chloe for approximately, at that time, maybe 6 or 7 years.
Do you recall how you got the dog or where you got the dog from?
The dog was from a shelter in Dallas, Texas, actually.
So essentially a rescue dog, is that correct?
Yes, rescue dog.
And when you got home after you went to the bathroom, what, if anything, did you do with reference to the dog?
At some point, I went upstairs to grab the dog and let her out back to use the bathroom.
And so when you would take the dog out, or when anybody would take the dog out to use the bathroom, how would that be accomplished? What I'm asking is, would the dog be on a leash, or would it be let out in the yard? Or?
No, so the backyard's fenced in, so I would open up the back door and she can go out, use the bathroom, and come back inside.
So the entirety of your backyard, that's a fenced-in backyard, is that correct?
Yes.
And beyond that fence, as far as the abutting, what sort of abuts the back of your property?
So behind the back fence, there's a railroad track. I believe it's a commuter rail that's behind the fence.
And is there any sort of opening or way to open the back of that fence to get in sort of any wooded area between your house and the tracks?
Yes, there's a gate back there.
And the gate, as far as when you let the dog out in the back that night, did you stay with the dog while the dog was outside?
I stayed at the doorway, and the dog went to the bathroom and then ran right back in.
So about how long was the dog outside?
She was out back for maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
Went outside, went to the bathroom, came back in?
Yes.
And when the dog came back inside the house, where did the dog go?
So the dog kind of walked around in the kitchen for a few minutes, and then I took her upstairs.
And when you took her upstairs, where upstairs did you take her?
So the dog liked to sleep in our room, mine and my wife's room. So a lot of times she would go up there on her own. Sometimes I would walk her up, and I walked her up to our bedroom.
And at any point in time for the remainder of that evening or the early morning, did the dog go outside at all?
No.
And you mentioned that there are train tracks that run sort of close to your property, is that correct?
Yes.
And is that just the commuter rail, or does the 𝗪𝗪 go by, or anything else?
I believe there is, in addition to the commuter rail, there's other trains that use that track, yes.
And how often, sort of on a daily basis, do trains go by your house on Fairview Road?
So it depends, I guess, schedule-wise, if it's the middle of the week or if it's the weekend. But, you know, on any given day, they can go by 5 or 6 times, you know, morning, you know, more towards the rush hour times, morning, at night, and then sometimes at night and sometimes during the day. So really all day and night.
And when the trains go by, about how loud is that as far as from your house?
So it's loud, although having lived there for a period of time, I feel like at least I'm kind of immune to the sound. I don't really hear it as much anymore.
So something essentially based on how long you lived there, you really don't even hear it anymore?
Not really, no.
Now, you let the dog out, you bring the dog back upstairs, and then where did you go?
So after I brought the dog up, I just came back down and hung out with everybody else.
Right.
And where within your house was everybody else sort of situated?
So everybody was in the kitchen, and then we have a connecting dining room, but it's opened. It's only, you know, a difference of 5 feet. And then we have the family room den that's adjacent to the kitchen, but they're all close proximity.
So the kitchen and the dining room are sort of the same room, is that correct?
Yes.
And as far as what if anything is between the kitchen and dining room and the living room that you were talking about?
So there's a wall, but there's a doorway. So there's really no barrier to go from the kitchen dining room into the family room.
So if somebody's standing in the family room and somebody's standing in the kitchen dining area, they can sort of see each other?
Yes.
Now, in the kitchen area where everybody was, or in the kitchen dining room area, do you recall sort of where people were and what they were doing around that time?
Yeah, I think people were just sitting around, having drinks. Someone had a speaker and they were listening to music and just talking and hanging out.
And as far as the sort of group and sort of the overall mood or demeanor of the group back at the house, how would you describe that?
Pleasant, fun. Everybody was having a good time. We were wishing Brian a happy birthday and everything was going great.
And at any point in time, while this was all going on, did you, other than your situation with the dog, was there any point in time where you were not with the group in the kitchen dining area?
No, I was there basically for the whole night, except I think at one point I may have shown Brian Higgins some photos that were in my son's room that were upstairs.
And what kind of photos are we talking?
So my son Jack, who's one of the twins, was in the Marines or is in the Marines, and we had put some plaques and some stuff in his room upstairs. And Brian Higgins was prior military, as am I, and I thought he would want to see the photos, so I had him look at them.
And that period of time that you were outside of sort of the kitchen dining room area looking at the photos with Mr. Higgins, about how long a period of time was we talking?
Very, very quickly, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes.
Now, at some point over the course of that morning, things started to sort of wind down at your home. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And about what time was that things started to wind down and people started to leave?
I think Brian left at around 1:30. I believe he was the first to leave. And then others left after that.
When you say others left after that, after Mr. Higgins left your house, where did you go?
So after Brian left, I had gone upstairs and hung out and watched TV up in my bedroom.
You had a long day that day, is that fair to say?
Yes, I had the funeral in New York that morning. We had the long drive back.
Got Alan Jackson
and
next.
We had been out, and now we're hanging out at my house, and it had been a long day. Yes.
Alan Jackson has been dying,
and so
this guy died.
At any point in time,
waiting
after you went upstairs, after Mr. Higgins left, did you come back downstairs at all?
Yes, I think I popped back down at one point just to see kind of how long people were going to be there, and then went back up.
When you popped back down, how many people were still there?
I think Jen and Matt was still there, and the two, Brian's two friends were still there, and my daughter Caitlin.
Now, as far as beyond Mr. Higgins when he left, was there any other occasion that you can recall where somebody from your house went outside and then came back?
Yes.
Who was that?
So while we were hanging out, I believe the girl Julie Nagel's brother came to the house. I never saw him, but I could hear them saying that he was out front. And I think Julie Nagel had walked outside to talk to him.
And at some point after she walked outside, she came back inside, is that correct?
Yes.
And about how long a period of time, if you know, was she outside?
I didn't really pay attention to how long it was. I don't think it was that long.
And as far as the outside of your house, after you had let Chloe out and back in, what, if any, observations did you make outside of your house? Did you look out? Did you see anything outside of the house?
Just that we have windows in the back of the kitchen area. You could just see that it was snowing.
Is that sort of like a bay window in the kitchen?
Yes, it's a large bay window in the kitchen.
When you look out the bay window in the kitchen, what part of your property does that face?
So it's the backyard. You can see the backyard. The bulkhead is right under that bay window, and you pretty much have a view of the whole backyard if it's in the daytime. But it was obviously a little dark.
So can you see the front of the house at any part of the front of the house when you're looking out the bay window?
No.
So at any point in time over the course of the evening, did you look out front to see anything out in front of your house?
No.
Now, at any point in time over the course of the evening, did you hear anything from front of the house, the back of the house, anywhere around the house that drew your attention outside?
No.
Now, at any point in time during the evening, did you know or did you become aware of either John O'Keefe or the defendant Karen Reed coming over to your house?
No.
And at no point in time over the course of that evening or the early morning there, did John O'Keefe or Karen Reed physically come into your house?
John O'Keefe and Karen Reed never entered my house.
And so you go up to bed, and the group is still sort of downstairs, is that correct?
Yes.
And at some point, your wife, Nicole, you share a bedroom with, does she come upstairs?
Yes.
And do you know about what time that was?
It was probably 2-ish. Not exactly sure, but around 2 or 2 o'clock.
And the doors to your house, as far as the front doors and the back doors, what is sort of the situation with regard to locking the doors before everybody goes to bed?
Can you rephrase that?
Because the house was unlocked.
With
walked into the house.
When you lived at 34 Fairview Road, there were a number of doors to the house, including 2 doors in the front, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how was that? Let me ask you this. Would it be unusual for the front doors of your house to remain unlocked overnight?
No.
Is that something that happened on occasion where people were supposed to lock the doors but didn't lock the doors?
Yes, from time to time, the doors, people would just forget to lock them, or we just didn't lock them.
And so your wife comes up to your bedroom about 2 a.m. or so. As far as you knew, was everybody else had left the house at that point?
Yes.
And you're up for a period of time with your wife, is that correct?
Yes.
And over the course of that time, so sort of following 2 o'clock in the morning, do you recall any sort of phone call or phone conversation with Mr. Higgins or anybody else?
No.
And at some point you fall asleep, do you recall about when that was?
I don't, but it was obviously after 2 because that's when she came upstairs, watched TV, and kind of hung out together for a while, and then went to sleep.
And the dog, Chloe, was she up in the room where you had brought her up before?
Yes.
She was there overnight, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, turning your attention to later on that morning or beginning of that morning, daytime morning of January 29th. Obviously, at some point you wake up, correct?
Yes.
And what is it that wakes you up on that morning?
I was awoken that morning to my sister-in-law, Jen, had burst into my room.
And do you know about what time that was?
It was early in the morning, between 6 and 6:30, I would say.
And fair to say that's not a normal occurrence?
No.
And when she burst into your room, can you describe her demeanor or sort of how she appeared when she first came?
She was very upset, almost hysterical.
And what, if anything, did she say when she came in?
Yeah, she seemed real upset.
She said something to the effect, John is dead.
Objection.
Next question, please, Steve.
Yes.
Did you know who she was referring to when she initially comes into you?
I initially did not.
This case would be so different with a real judge.
And
So different.
at some point during the course of that conversation, does Ms. McCabe make reference to going downstairs?
Yes.
And prior to that, not the content of the conversation, but as far as the length of the conversation, about how long was that length of the conversation that occurred in your bedroom between yourself, Ms. McCabe, and your wife?
Probably a minute.
And the demeanor that you described as far as Ms. McCabe was concerned is almost hysterical. Was that continuous throughout that initial conversation?
Yes. She was very upset.
And who, if anyone, did she indicate was downstairs, or why did you go downstairs?
She said that the police.
This I'm going to allow in with that foundation.
Go ahead.
She said that the police were downstairs.
And so you went downstairs to talk to them?
Yes.
And when you go downstairs, what do you see when you get to sort of the bottom of the stairs?
I saw a Canton police officer downstairs.
So inside your house at that point?
Yes.
And the door to your house, was it still open or shut or something?
I don't remember.
And the Canton police officer that's inside your home, did you recognize him?
Yes.
And who did you recognize him?
Last name, Lank. So Officer Lank.
Was he someone that you were familiar with?
I knew who he was, yes.
Did you socialize or were you friends or anything like that?
I didn't socialize with him. I knew him to be a Canton police officer. I had met him, multiple times, and I knew him to know my brother Chris.
And so knew him is essentially what I'm asking, knew him in a professional capacity, personal capacity, or a little bit of both?
I would say more of a professional capacity, and I knew of him, but did not hang out with him socially.
And initially, when you first see Officer Lang, is he by himself, or who, if any, other officers are with?
I believe initially he was by himself.
And another officer joined yourself and Officer Lang at some point?
Yes, I believe another officer came into the house.
You know who that officer is?
I don't.
And as far as them coming into your house, they were welcome in your house? You didn't say get out or close the door or anything like that?
No, of course they were welcome in my house.
And where did you go with the officer sort of in your house? Where did you spoke with the officer, I'm presuming?
Yes, we spoke in the kitchen area.
And when you're speaking with the officer in the kitchen area, who is there?
So my wife, Nicole, her sister, Jen, and I believe Jen's husband, Matt, arrived almost the same time that I came downstairs, maybe a minute after.
And how long a period of time was this conversation that occurred in the kitchen of your house?
I don't remember the exact time. I wouldn't want to guess. I don't remember. He was 10, 15, 20 minutes maybe initially.
And when you say initially, was there a subsequent conversation that occurred after that?
Yes. The Officer Lank returned to the house sometime after that.
And when he returned sometime after that, was he alone or was there another officer?
I believe that time he was with Lieutenant Gallagher, perhaps.
Gallagher didn't say.
And were you familiar with Lieutenant Gallagher prior to that one?
I knew who Lieutenant Gallagher was on a professional level. I had not hung out with him on a social level.
And again, they were welcomed into your home and you spoke with them, is that correct?
Yes, the second time they were there, they were invited back to the house via a phone call.
And that second conversation within your house, where did that?
Same area, family room, kitchen area.
And if you know about how long a period of conversation was that second come back to the house?
That may have been longer, maybe a half hour.
Right? I thought it was Lanky Good. Lanky Good went in the house.
Going back to sort of that initial conversation, as far as, so it's yourself, it's Mr. and Mrs. McCabe, your wife, and then the police, is that correct?
Myself, my wife, Nicole, my sister-in-law, Jen, her husband, Matt, had arrived, and the police, yes.
And in between that first speaking with the police and the second time that the police came back to your house, who, if anyone, did you call or notify in regard to the situation that was going on in front of you?
I called Brian Higgins.
Why did you call Brian?
Because I think it was important for him to know what was going on and that what had happened.
And as far as you knew with reference to Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, what, if any, relationship, friendship, anything were you aware of between Mr. Higgins and either Mr. O'Keefe or Ms.
I was not aware too much about a relationship with Brian and either person. Brian had mentioned maybe even that night that he was friendly and knew John. I knew of no relationship between Brian and the defendant.
And following your conversation with Mr. Higgins, if anyone else came over your house?
So Brian Higgins eventually came over to my house, and my sister-in-law Julie also arrived at my house.
And do you know why your sister-in-law Julie came by?
She had to deliver the donuts.
Yes.
And why was that?
So she has a routine that when it's someone's birthday, she likes to come by and bring like coffee and donuts. So it was Brian's birthday that night. So my sister-in-law Julie was coming by to drop off some donuts and coffee, I think.
In a goddamn blizzard.
And where was Julie when you first saw her that morning?
Oh, for fucking.
She was out front in the driveway.
And what, if anything, did you ask Julie to do when you saw her out?
I asked her to come inside.
And when she came inside, is that when you informed her of what had happened?
It looks like Plevin on.
Yes, I don't know if it was necessarily me that informed her, but people that were there were explaining to her what happened. It was a very, very chaotic, unbelievably chaotic morning.
Yeah, I bet.
And as far as when that was described to your sister-in-law Julie, how would you describe sort of her demeanor or her reaction to the news regarding Mr. Oates?
Shock. That's how I would describe it. Everybody's reaction that morning was utter shock. And she was upset and looked very, very in shock.
And so the second time that the Canton police officers come back to your home, who was there at that point?
I know I was there for sure. My wife, Nicole, Jen, her husband, Matt, Brian Higgins may have been there at that time. And I'm not sure about Julie. Julie at one point left the house, and I think she came back later in the morning, so I'm not sure if she was there.
And at some point when your sister-in-law Julie came back to your house, who, if anyone, came to your house with her?
Her husband, my brother Chris, who's her husband.
Was this before or after the second time that the police had been in?
I believe they came back after the second time, but I'm not 100% sure. The first time that Julie came with the coffee, the police were not there.
Now, when you first sort of get up and come downstairs and the police they're basically in your doorway, is that correct?
Yes.
Could you see outside as far as what was going on outside at that time?
Not from downstairs, but I had looked out the window after Jen had come up into my room and explained what had happened, and before I went downstairs.
When you looked out your window from your bedroom, what did you see?
I could see at least one police vehicle. I could see that there was something going on out front, and that was about it. And I just went straight downstairs.
At that time that you looked out your window, did you see either an ambulance or a fire truck out there?
I don't remember if I saw an ambulance. There were emergency vehicles out there, but I can't remember exactly which types.
And
his room was.
At any point in time, at that time or subsequent throughout the course of the day, did you go out to that area of your yard where you saw the cruisers and the sort of lights?
No.
And why?
I didn't see that there was a reason to go out to that area. The police had already been in my house. They had already talked to us about what was going on. It was a snowstorm at that point. They were trying to conduct an investigation, and I didn't want to interfere with it or have anything to do with it.
Now, as far as what you're learning, sort of when Jennifer McCabe first comes sort of urging in into your bedroom at 6 to 6:30 in the morning, at any point around there were you made aware of where John O'Keefe was at that point?
Yes.
And what were you made aware of?
I was made aware that he was taken to the hospital.
So by the time that you're awoken by Mrs. McCabe Don O'Keefe is, to your knowledge, not outside.
To my knowledge, I believed he was on the way to the hospital.
Now, later on in the course of that day, at some point, did you have occasion to speak with some troopers from the state police?
Yes.
And if you recall, who is it that you spoke with?
So I spoke with Trooper, last name Proctor, and then another trooper, and I don't know the last name, first name Yuri.
I just met him. Oh, I don't remember.
Would it be Sergeant Buchanan?
It could be.
Oh my God! Like,
Had you met either of those troopers prior to that date?
I had never met Trooper Proctor.
Yeah, you knew.
I had met Trooper,
𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏.
I forget what is the last name?
𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏.
You met Trooper Yuri?
Yuri. I had met him once or twice before.
And we got a picture of.
Was that in a professional capacity?
Yes.
No, you guys were drinking.
And where did you speak with him on
Where
that?
at that?
At my sister-in-law Jen's house.
And if you recall, about what time of day was it that you spoke with?
It was late morning, early afternoon, the day of the incident. So I don't know the exact time. Before noon, I think.
And why was it that later on that day that you were over your sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe?
Well, my sister-in-law Jen and her husband Matt were leaving my house. My sister-in-law was distraught. I wanted to be comforting to them and be there for them if they needed anything, and I drove to their house.
And this is, and speaking of your sister-in-law, Jennifer, this is someone you've known since she was how old?
7 years old. She's like a little sister to me.
And at the point that you're going over to the house, did you know that there were going to be troopers from the state police over at the house?
Yes.
And fair to say they asked to talk to you, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you know who, if anyone else, they spoke to at your sister-in-law's house that day?
I believe they spoke with Jen, my sister-in-law Jen, and then her husband Matt, and then myself.
And so was that done sort of in a group setting, or was it separate or something?
Separate.
And so they spoke to you in one area of the house while Jennifer and Matthew McCabe were in another area of the house, and vice versa for you?
Yes, I spoke with them at the dining room table, and Jen and Matt were not present. I believe they may have been upstairs or somewhere else in the house.
And if you know, where were you when the troopers were talking to either Jennifer McCabe or Matt?
So I was upstairs when they were being spoken to.
What? Bullshit. Bullshit. They sent him upstairs. They want us to believe that. They sent him upstairs. Go to one of the kids' rooms and sit there quietly.
I may have one moment.
Matt.
Yes.
Stop it. Stop it.
May I approach her?
Yes.
I'm going to show you a series of 8 photographs and then you review them and look up.
Sure.
Unbelievable. What do we got here? What's he looking at? Did I take the captions off by accident? Where'd they go? Oh no, he's not talking, that's why. I apologize. That makes sense. Oh God, look at it. Look how serious he is with his glasses. He's really, this guy is a pro.
So what I've just presented you with and
Want to know
previously
why
marked as
murder-
exhibits
check out
58
look
through
how good he is
65,
at this.
generally speaking, you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
Yes.
And what do you recognize?
So the photos appear to be the front yard in front of my old house at 34 Fairview Road.
And from those photographs, they appear to be a fair and accurate portrayal of what your house and your yard looked like around that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask to publish those for the jury to discuss with the witness briefly.
Hey, you can put them up, Ms. Gilman.
Ms. Gilman, if you could start with Exhibit 58. Mr. Albert, sir, there should be on the desk in front of you a laser pointer. Actually, we already talked.
I have that, yes.
So what's up on the screen currently, do you recognize, is that what's depicted in Exhibit 58?
Let me see. I have them out of order here. Just give me 1 second. So yes, this looks like the photo exhibit 58 that you handed me.
And this is a photograph of your house, or if I'm standing on the street to the left side of the property, correct?
Yes.
And on this sort of left side of your property, let me ask you this first. As far as between the roadway of Fairview Road and your front lawn, is there anything there as far as a sidewalk or anything like that?
No, there's no sidewalk. So the grass area goes right to the curb, and then there's the street.
And the curb that's in between the grass and the roadway, is that like a straight curb, a straight edge curb, granite curbing, or like rounded curbing? How would you describe that?
I would just describe it as a regular curbing. It's not granite. It's the color is black, so it seems like a tar curbing.
And in this area of the left side of your property, what, if anything, of note is sort of in that area of the property?
So in that area of the property, first of all, that's basically the property line from the neighbor's house. If you're staring at my house from the front, the neighbor to the left, that's the property line area. But there's a fire hydrant there. There is a flagpole with the American flag and the Marine Corps flag. And there is we call it like an electrical box, but I'm not sure what the purpose of it is.
And so for all the years that you've lived there, either as a child or as an adult, you really don't know what that electrical box does or what it is?
Yes, I don't know if it's operable. Sometimes the door is open. If it's windy, the door of the box blows open, and sometimes it's closed, and we don't really have much to do with it.
And the general area where, when you looked out the window in your bedroom on the morning of the 29th, as far as where you saw the police vehicles or cruisers, do you see that in this photograph?
Yes, that's the same general area.
The same general area as you were describing, with the fire hydrant, flagpole, things like that?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next exhibit 59. And again, sir, what's up on the screen? Is that what you have before you?
What was it, 59? Yes.
And from this photograph, sir, this is again a picture of your residence around the time of January 29th, correct?
Yes.
Fair to say this is taken after some of the snow has sort of melted from the storm before?
Yes, it appears that there's less snow in the front there.
So less snow than what you saw when you looked out your window or at some later point on the 29th?
Yes.
And from this photograph, if you could just direct the jury's attention to the driveway and the garages and sort of where is that located?
So my driveway was this area right here, and that's the garage doors.
And from within this photograph as well, you mentioned that there was sort of two doors to the front of your house, one that leads into a foyer area and the other leads into a living room of some kind. If you could direct the jury's attention to where each of those doors would be on the house.
Sure. So the door right here we consider it the front door, and that goes into a foyer area. And then, not from this photo, you can't really see it, but there's a door in this, I guess, breezeway area, and that opens up into the family room.
And one last thing from this photograph, sir. If the window that you were looking out, see that window in this photograph as well, and can you draw the jury's attention?
Yes, I believe it would be this one right here. Yeah, in the corner.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next exhibit number 60.
You say 60?
60. And so what's up on the screen, do you recognize that as what you have before you as exhibit 60?
Yes.
And from this photograph, as far as the roadway and the sort of width of the road from the curb to the double yellow line there, is that generally what it was on January 29th, as that's what the roadway looked like?
The morning of the 29th?
Well, the morning of the 29th, it was snow, correct?
Right, so the roadway, I believe would have had some snow on it.
So what I'm asking is, when you came home that evening or the early morning of the 29th, is that essentially what the roadway looked like, absent whatever the snow was covered?
Yes.
The next photograph, Ms. Gilman. And again, now looking at what is exhibit 61, is that correct, sir?
One second. Yes.
This is essentially a closer up image of the area of the fire hydrant, electrical box, and the flagpole that we were talking about before.
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next photograph. And again, what's up on the screen, this would be, and I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Is this 62?
62. It appears to be, yes, 62.
So you were mentioning earlier in your testimony that the area where you saw the police cruisers when you looked out the window in the morning of the 29th was near sort of where your property abuts the neighboring property, correct?
Yes.
And do you happen to know what number that next door neighbor's house is? Up or down from 34?
I honestly don't. I don't know what number that is.
And do you see sort of the property line in between your house and the next door neighbor's?
Yes, I believe that row of trees is the property line.
Karen couldn't see
So the row of evergreen trees there is sort of where it delineates between your property and the next door neighbor.
Yes.
Yes, they appear to be in line from almost the street to the white fence.
And that white fence sort of in the back right of that photograph, is that the fence that you were talking about before that encloses your backyard?
Yes.
And the next photograph is coming, number 63. Again, this is just another photograph of sort of that area of your yard, is that correct?
1 second. Sorry. Yes.
Now, with reference to this area of the yard at your house when you were living there at 34 Fairview Road, is that an area of the yard that would be of particular use, or did you go in that area of the yard all that much?
No, we didn't really use that area too often. There's a large wood chip bed. You can't see it because of the snow, but it kind of covers that area. So we don't really go over there that often.
And now, so with reference to this area of the yard, was there any sort of overhead, like ambient lighting, street lights, anything like that in that area?
No, so that's a very dark part of the yard. There's no street light there at all.
And the next photograph, Ms. Gilman, Mr. Albert, I believe this would be number 64, is that correct?
Yes.
And with reference to this, can you describe to the jury what are we looking at in this particular photograph, exhibit 64?
So that's the front right door, I guess you could say, to the house. And again, you can't see the door, but it's inside that breezeway area to the left.
If you could, just using the laser point direct.
Oh, yeah. So the door would be right in here.
And from the driveway leading up to that front door area you were talking about with the foyer once you get in, What, if anything, is sort of leading you up to the steps there?
To the other door,
To the other, the front.
there's a brick walkway.
So brick walkway leading up the brick steps into the foyer area of your house.
Yes.
And the last in this set, Ms. 𝗃𝗵, Mr. Albert, this would be number 65. Do you recognize what's depicted in this photograph, sir?
Yes.
And what do you recognize?
So that's the picture of the ground in front of the fire hydrant, which is to the left front of my yard.
You can take that down. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Albert, with the days that sort of followed from January 29th, as far as your home was concerned, what, if any, sort of police presence did you observe or notice sort of in that area in the front yard of your home?
So over the course of the next couple of days, there were emergency vehicles and police personnel that day and days following in front of the house.
So later on in the afternoon of the 29th and continuing on for days after, is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you observe as far as the weather was concerned between the date of the 29th and the days that the police presence was outside of your house?
I believe it rained a few times during that time.
And as far as the snow that had been piled up on your front lawn, what, if anything, was occurring with the snow as the days went on following the 20th?
I believe so. Some of the snow was shoveled out, I believe, during the crime scene, and then some of the snow was just dissipating due to the fact that it was melting and it had rained a bunch of days.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to your house, and obviously at some point you moved from the house on Fairview in Canton to Knoll, correct?
Yes.
And when was that sort of first discussed between you and your wife as far as selling the house?
That was discussed in October, November of, it would have been 2021.
What was it that sort of precipitated that discussion as far as selling the house?
Around that time, and it was post-COVID, the housing market seemed really good. And my brother, Chris, had sold his house, was in the process, and ultimately sold his house around that time. He got a great deal on it. I had known some other people that had sold around that time. And it was a little early for us because our children weren't all necessarily gone yet, but it was close and we thought we could get a good deal for the house. So that's when we started exploring it.
And who, if anyone, did your brother Christopher put you in touch with?
So he put me in touch with a realtor that ultimately sold his house.
Right. This story.
And at some point,
he sold it because Chris sold it. Like
at some point, you sold the house.
I did.
And when was that?
So we didn't end up selling until April of 2023.
And as far as prior to selling the house, what, if any, did the sale of your house have anything to do with what occurred there on January 29th, 2020?
Absolutely not.
Okay. May I have just one moment now?
Yes.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Can I see counsel at sidebar for just a second, please?
Oh, done with this witness. All right. Do we have time for cross-examination? It's 3:47 p.m. I got to go on Howie at 4:33. I got to tell Howie, I'm like, dude, if Brian Albert's doing cross-examination, I'm going to have to go a little later. Sorry, I'm sure you understand. I mean, come on. Come on. So these people all lied. We're going to examine everything these people said. That whole thing about the foyer, about where these people, like Lank said he only stayed in the foyer. Didn't Nicole Albert say that they like ate around a table? They were around a table together. I don't know. We're going to have to get a list. I'm sure the Justice page will have a lot of good points, a lot of good posts coming up of you people out there that are watching this stuff, and you're going to find it because so many people are watching this. It's definitely not just me, obviously. Like I told the reporter from the Globe today, just go down and talk to those protesters over there. You know, like they have a lot. These are some of the smartest people, man. These people are so into this. These people are like an encyclopedia of knowledge on this case. They know everything. Go down there and talk to some of them. I know you people are out there watching this, listening to every word, and like you know what? Oh, that's a contradiction to something they said. You know. Yeah, Lena, she's got a great channel, Truth and Transparency. She has all the witness statements written down, and they are inconsistent. Exactly. Like, too many eyes are on this case now. Too many eyes are on this case. They ordered food? What? Yeah, we're going to have to sit down. I have not been able to focus as much on, like, I need to re-listen to it all again. You know what I mean? It's like one of these things. I need to listen to the whole testimony all over again because Nicole's was a blur for me. I was getting kicked out and dealing with my own shit during that time. But Brian's is just like how smooth, like this guy up there is just like, that is the kind of guy you want in your corner when you're murdering. That guy knows everything to say, everything to do. There's no doubt in my mind he's in charge of the whole thing. He knows exactly how to handle this. He's a con art. He's a psychopath. Psycho. Like that guy's lying. We all know Brian Albert's lying through his teeth right now. And all of their statements are rehearsed. This whole thing about, well, we sold the house because Chris Albert sold his house. Because that's what we do in the Albert family. One person sells their home. We all sell our homes. That's just what we do. Okay. Wish we were called supporters instead of protesters. I like protesters more, to be honest, because we're protesting something. You know, supporters are like sports fans, you know? We're not here to cheer on the team. We're here to protest an injustice. Oh, I can read some turtle chats in the meantime. Let's read some turtle chats. First up, we got Abby Horowitz. She's back, $10. She says, I suggest a name change.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Hold on. Here we go. Cross exam.
All right, so Joe, rather than start cross-examination of Mr. Albert, we're going to let you break for the day. And I did want to give you some scheduling updates because there have been questions from you folks and requests. So next week will be a full week with him, every day next week. Again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday will be full days. I'd like us to pick up the pace a little bit here, no repetitive testimony so that we can move things along, but we are moving things along. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday will be full days. Tuesdays and Thursday next week will be half days. The week I wanted to address with you, where we were already going to be off the 29th and 31st of that week. There's been a request and it makes sense. We will now take the 29th, 30th, and 31st off rather than have you folks come in. So you'll get 3 full days, sort of maybe in the middle of this trial to be able to
Memorial Day
regroup. And
what?
I figured everybody would welcome those days, but I am going to ask you to give us a full day on the 28th. So think about that this weekend. So the Tuesday will be a full day, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
For one day.
June 7th, we're off. We will end June 6th at noon instead of 1 o'clock. Okay. All right. So I do have to give you those 3 cautions.
Think it's $2.
Please do not discuss this case with anyone.
I got here.
Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, got it. I always like to tell jurors, just leave everything here. You know, folks, literally, figuratively, just leave it here. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday morning.
Price for the jury.
What's today? The 10th? right, so 13th, the 20th. All right, so we got 2 full weeks in a row. Prosecution week. We might not see the defense go till June. That's what I'm looking at right now. No, still no response to the McLeod. That was brought up Monday and then never brought up again.
Here we go. Thank you. Shall we go?
One session. Any other evidentiary issues I should be prepared to spend some time on this weekend?
Wait.
Not from the Commonwealth, no. No, we can wait on that.
I heard you say we can wait on that, but I'd like to know, is there anything that I should be taking a look at?
Right, no, I wasn't, I was talking about something different. I think with regard to Brian Albert, there's really nothing other than I wanted to talk to my co-counsel over the weekend to get the court to potentially revisit the ruling that you just made, which whether you do or you don't, Your Honor, I think you've heard, we can hear more potential. But with regard to Caitlin Albert, Your Honor, there is the issue of the photos between her and Katie McLaughlin.
Yes.
I just wanted to flag that for the court. I think we've addressed that already, and I think the court had said we'd take them on a photo by photo basis.
No, what I said is you need to approach. So before she testifies, let me know where we stand.
Will do.
Okay. Or before your cross-examination.
Will do.
All right. Do we expect to hear from her next week?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think probably Monday.
Probably Monday.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Oh, Monday too.
All right. Thank
No,
you.
Your Honor. Thank you.
Tristan threatened to punch me and call me a rat for my reporting on this case, just to remind you. And I'm the intimidator, right? Right. Okay. Let me bang through some turtle chats here. I'll bring up Tom CPU's channel in the background, just in case. All right, so let me bang through some turtle chats here, shall we? Let me make it bigger. All right, suggest a name change to the chilling intimidator. Yeah, seriously, I'm creating a chilling effect. Sure. Tina sends $50. Thank you, Tina. Says for all you've done and all you're doing and all you've sacrificed to bring the truth about John O'Keefe's death and Karen Reed's innocence. You are amazing. From a proud turtle rider. Thank you very much, Tina. Doe sends $10. Says Aidan will have the last laugh every time he leaves the bank. You know, it's like I appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. I like to be rich. That'd be cool. But I'd rather be in there. I mean, it's like being in there is, although being in there, even for a short amount of time, was cool. It was cool to just see the process of the jury being paraded in. I got to see what the jurors looked like. I was really curious about that. Like, who are these people? What are they, not because I'm trying to dox them or intimidate them. I'm just curious, like, how do you get picked for a jury like this? Are they sloppy looking? Do they look serious? And it looks like a good jury, to be honest with you. I think Karen's in the hands of, her life is in the hands of responsible looking people, just from the looks of them. That's all I got to say. And I have no desire to know who they are. And I have no doubt in my mind that she will be found not guilty by this group of jurors. So, yeah. So it's just cool to be in there and just be with the media. Like, I got in with them. I conversed with a lot of them. And I think a lot of them saw what happened to me today and they realized it's wrong. Like the smart ones, like the people like Gretchen are too stupid to know. But everybody else, like the Court TV lady, Ted, like the Boston Globe guy, like they all got it. You could tell, like they knew what was happening to me was egregious. So, I mean, really the only one, like Grant was making these things. So you're going to be banned and blah, 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 blah. Okay. The Commonwealth and Grant's a crazy person, right? They're taking the same position as Grant, as a crazy person. Like that's the level of thinking out of the district attorney's office is Grant. Like wild, absolutely wild. Okay, next. Let's see. Lawrence sends $25. Says, here's to you, Turtleboy, for living rent-free in the McAlbert's heads. Congrats on your increased number of followers. You go get them really bad. I've gotten over 1,000 new Twitter followers and 1,000 YouTube subs in the last like 24 hours because of this. And it's only going to grow more because people are like, wait, why did that guy? I was watching Emily D. Baker's restream of that. She's a big YouTube lawyer. And like everyone in the comments was like what? Who is this? Like even the people that didn't know who they am, they Google it. And like, you know, you come across this sympathetic. No, I cannot go to court on Monday because, I mean, I still might go down and just hang out with the peeps like I've done. But, you know, just have a presence down there. But as far as like going in now, I won't be doing that on Monday because Brian Albert's testifying and Brian Albert's scared of me. So can't have that. Okay. Thank you, Lawrence. Okay, next up we have Maureen sends $20, says, congratulations. Every time they try to knock you down, you become more famous. All right. Thanks, Maureen. It's the Streisand effect. Moofy Loop sends $5, says, Lally is not putting on a prosecution of Karen Reed. He's putting on a defense of the McAlberts. Wow. That is so well said. This is exactly what he's doing. Who's coming out here? Who's that coming down the stairs? Is that Paul? Or no? Okay, no.
Yeah.
Is Brian Albert coming out with his full proof? He came in. Did anyone get video of Brian Albert coming into court today? There's the McCabe sisters. Yeah. The weak girls. Can't ask questions to them. There they are. Trash bag. So anyway, mute that. Let me know if Karen and them come out. Let me read some more Turtle chats. Next up, we got let's see, do we have any more Turtle chat? Another one from Eric's donates $10 and says, how many people do you think are actually involved in a cover-up? And how many do you think actually don't know anything and are being used as useful idiots? I mean, most are just being used as useful idiots, like, you know, Lank and people. I went over that the other day, but you know, I think that I think they know what's going on. 𝗫𝗏𝗍𝗄 knows what's going on. Tully knows what's going on. Proctor knows what's going on. They're evil. And yeah, okay. Next up, do we have any Turtle chats here? I mean, Cash Apps. All right, we got one from Patricia sends $50 and says, wait till Bev realizes Memorial Day is the 27th. Why? So they're just bringing them in for that Tuesday that week? That's weird. Interesting. See. Who else do we have here? Patricia sends $20 and says, thank you. You're welcome. Carrie B sends $20 and says, Streisand effect. Bev's still a cunt. True that. Jonathan sends $20 and says, excellent work. Really extraordinary journalism. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. Oh, we got some more here. I didn't bang through. $25 from Derek Clark. And he says, for Bradle fees. Thank you very much, Derek. Marvin sends $10 and says, free speech is paramount. Thank you, Marvin. Marianne sends $20 and says, did Dougal get tossed permanently? Where are people hearing this from? Oh, Karen's up. Wait, hold on. Someone was supposed to message.
Thank you. Karen, how do you feel after week 2?
I feel very well.
Norwell. She lives in Norwell. It's not Norwell.
Good job, Karen. Good job, David.
Judge, I don't know why that matters, but no. And that's what I'm saying. They didn't go to O'Keefe's funeral.
I've learned.
Some strangers cop funeral.
I've learned. Stay on the outside.
Okay, no, I'm not letting anyone come near her. We got this. Look at this. Oh, the line back up at here.
Wasn't anyone interviewing her?
She's so cute.
Yeah, join the club.
Oh.
Join the club. Dude, he is literally their lawyer. I mean, think about what they did in court today with these witnesses. Why did the Commonwealth file a motion to ban me from the court? Because on behalf of the witnesses. The Commonwealth doesn't represent the witnesses. They have their own lawyers. Greg Henning. Like, why did he file something? Why did the Commonwealth file that? Why do they always act like they represent these people?
What's she giving her? That's a parent. Her parents? Yeah, but where are they? Her parents. Yeah. Do you want to take this?
Happy Thank you. Come. Come.
Yeah, okay.
Have a good weekend. Have a good weekend.
All right. So anyway, let me read a couple more. Marianne says, did Dougal get tossed permanently? I've heard this from a few people. I did not see Dougal in the court today. So I don't know. He couldn't have got tossed today because he wasn't there at all. He did not come in with the McAlberts. So I don't know where this is coming from, but everyone's saying it. So many people message me. Aubrey sends $5 and says, got your back, Turtleboy. Thank you, Aubrey. Derek sends $50. No comment, but thank you, Derek. Lisa Marie sent $15 and says, much love from Texas. Nice. Lisa Marie, blessed mother from Texas. Welcome aboard, Lisa Marie. Thank you very much from Texas. KDS sends $50 and says, salute your attorney. He did great today, huh? Brado was awesome today. He was pissed off. He used to win a lot. No judges gave him whatever he wants, until he got me as a client. And then all of a sudden crazy shit starts happening, So Christine, but he's passionate about it, isn't he? He's wicked passionate. Christine sends $100 with 3 turtle emojis. That's very kind of you, Christine. I appreciated that. $5 from Aaron says, spicy Bradle. Fuck these clowns. Thank you, Aaron. Barbara sends $30 and says shenanigans and bullshit. Okay. All right, cool. So do we have any more turtle chats I missed? Cool. Oh, one more from KB. Sends $10 and says, happy German Shepherd Day to Chloe, wherever she is. She got renomed. I don't know. Yeah, I think Bev likes Bradle, but she didn't give, she's a cunt though. She don't like me. She definitely doesn't like me. And just going in front of her, it's just so fucked up, So we're going to fight this. We're going to fight this. We're going right to the SJC with this shit, man. We're not playing around. On Channel 5 News, I got to see this. I'm sure I'll be on all the interviews. I'll check it out. But yeah, anybody have any questions or anything before we wrap this stream up? Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. The press corps does not like Grant Smith Ellis. They want him banned. They hate him. He's been attacking Ted Daniel. He got attacked. Sue O'Connell he's going after now. He's going after all these random people. It's bizarre. But anyway, I'm going to call it a day and just go and relax. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's been a long day. It's been an interesting day in my behalf. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support. The judge might not like me and the district attorney's office may not like me, but I got a shitload of support where you find people, and that's all that really matters. So we will see you guys all tomorrow. I'm going to make an announcement about whether I want to do the show tomorrow or Sunday, because I might do it Sunday. I'll let you know, simply because the Celtics are on tomorrow, and I know the Bruins are on tonight, and then the Bruins are on Sunday. I'm just thinking of which one I want to watch. So I might want to watch this. I'll see. What time is the game tomorrow? What time are the Celtics on tomorrow? NBA scores. Okay. The fuck? I clicked on the advertisement there. Okay. They're on at 8:30. Yeah, it conflicts. It conflicts. Whereas what about the Bruins? What's their schedule looking like? Okay. They're tonight at obviously 7, and then Sunday at 6:30. So that would make we're gonna have to do the show Sunday, because that way we can watch the whole Bruins game. It'll probably be over by 9. And hockey's like 2.5 hours. I know Mother's Day. Yeah, Monday's Mother's Day. Yeah, moms love me. People always come up to me. Whenever people come up to me and they're like under 30, they always say to me, "Oh, my mom loves you, Turtleboy." It's always the mom. So we're gonna have Mother's Day. We'll do it Mother's Day. Let's do it that day. So we're gonna have the live show will be on Sunday, 9 o'clock. All right. So thank you guys for joining me. We'll talk soon. Peace, Tunnel Riders.